The unknown, the times of uncertainty, the fall.
As we descend closer to the end of the year, we become unmistakably closer to new horizons, closer to things we don't know. And these things can be scary. However, being enveloped in our fear of the unknown, we oftentimes misconstrue what the unknown actually is, and cling on to certainty and comfortability to compensate. The fears we have are often labeled as such because they're unknown in nature. But once they are known to us, clear to us, we embrace them and go forward with a new, more rational approach to the things we once feared. The autumn season, much like our own human journeys through the unknown, is wrapped in feelings of uncertainty, yet eventual acceptance. In this season, we are gone from the highs of summer and are on the precipice of the end of the year. The 4 seasons of the year mirror how we pursue our own life, encapsulating distinct feelings for each. First, in the spring, we are born or establish a standard for how things are. Then, in the summer, we fully embrace these established moments and extend ourselves within them as far as we can reach. Then, the fall brings in decay of these moments, and thus the cycle is slowed to a halt and reborn in winter. But the autumn season specifically has a curious way of staying with us. Although the euphoria of warmer days in the spring, the intense joys of summer, or the solace of winter are all memorable in their own respective ways, the emotional pursuit we go through in fall, specifically, will always resonate with me because we are confronted with the nostalgia of better days and introspect on the advent of uncertain futures. When I breathe the autumn air like a leaf flowing down from the tree it once gripped to, I too am now in a place different from what I'm accustomed. I'm no longer in the comfort of summer. A new season has come. When I look up now at the orange, red, and yellow hues, I dig deep inside and assess the weight of change that now takes place. The outer world of fall, the temperature, the colors, and feelings it gives, as well as what it represents as we go through our life, will always be the crux of this whimsical season. And no better show represents these feelings for me than the Cartoon Network animated miniseries, Over the Garden Wall. Within this video, I will be looking at Over the Garden Wall and specifically how it connects to the 2 most important aspects of autumn, the aesthetic and what autumn represents. To start, you may be wondering what Over the Garden Wall is. Over the Garden Wall is a 10-episode, 2-hour miniseries produced by Cartoon Network on November 3rd, 2014. It is about 2 brothers, Wirt, the anxious and meticulous older brother, and Greg, the lackadaisical and outgoing younger brother, as they traverse the unknown, a seemingly endless world shrouded in mystery and populated by a plethora of characters, all with their own problems to work out. While the brothers go through their journey, they have to come to terms with their own flaws and rely on each other to make it out together. Since the moment I watched this show, I was mesmerized by its world, characters, and story. Unlike many beloved Cartoon Network shows during this era, lasting more than 6 seasons or so, Over the Garden Wall, being a 2-hour miniseries, has a tightly knit narrative. The world it builds upon and presents is focused and captivating, and the characters are well defined from the get-go and continue to grow on you with all the moments you share with them. This show spoke to me in a deeply profound way and expresses itself in a detailed manner like no other I've seen before. I wanted to reflect on my attachment to this show, how it caught my attention, and why it will continue to be part of me forevermore. And I found that the way it brought me to this world and continues to enchant me to it was through its heavy use of the autumn season, my favorite season, to create its story. The show has been intertwined with the autumn season from its inception all the way to the airing on Cartoon Network all those years ago, and it will continue to evoke the fall spirits to viewers for years to come. The appeal of the autumn aesthetic is found far and wide in this world, from the character design, the setting, to the little details sprinkled in. The most prominent example of this is the world, which would be just how you envisioned it, with autumn leaves permeating the screen in every episode. But it isn't as one would think. Not only does it have the basic oranges, reds, and yellows expected from the autumn season, but the color palette expands the main reds, yellows, and oranges in each episode to reflect the trajectory of autumn's hues over the 3-month period of the actual fall. The show slowly and subtly mutes the reds, oranges, and yellows over time, and eventually, at its end, brings in the stark whites of the winter. This detail the show has helps us get into not only one feeling of fall, but the entire spectrum fall has to offer. The bright colors that reign in the change from summer to autumn, the gray withered leaves that spell the dawn of the colder months, the rainier melancholic days, and the isolating nights are all featured. Additionally, keeping the show's setting in the woods provides the proper space to show the entire range of fall up front. Aside from the woods and their change in colors, the holidays of Halloween and Thanksgiving, being a staple of the autumn season, are reflected in Over the Garden Wall through iconography, presenting pumpkins, skeletons, graveyards, and more scary elements, as well as turkeys, people in colonial outfits, and the more rustic settlements evoke the essentials from these holidays and the feeling of fall through their embedded allusions in the show. On the topic of rustic settlements, the show also highlights the fall aesthetic through its vintage feeling. When we look at the placement of fall in the timeline of the year, it is an aftermath to the sunnier and arguably more warm, inviting, and adventurous months. Autumn leads us to reflect on the perceived peaks of the months that came right before it. The sentiment that fall is a very nostalgic season not only relates to our own past, but the history of other periods lost to time. This aspect is heavily featured in Over the Garden Wall. Like its characters, in the first episode there is a woodsman appearing to come from the 18th century. In the 5th, there is an old, wealthy land baron that comes from the Elizabethan era. And in the 4th, there is a tavern chock full of mid-18th century workers, from a tailor to a midwife and a butcher, all adhering to the vintage feeling. Aside from the character design, the settings like the village in the 2nd episode, the tugboat in the 6th, or the schoolhouse in the 3rd, although come from different time periods, all fit together in that they invite us to think about times once forgotten. Also, the early 60s inspired animation style in episode 8 and the grim fairy tale-esque story of episode 7 harken back to designs of stories that we don't see too often now. All these aspects bring to light bygone times and ultimately bring us into an autumn world that is rooted in the past and reminds us of the uncertainty of the future. From the colors and natures of the woods to the symbols of autumn holidays, and lastly, the roots of the past embedded in the show, we come to understand the beauty of the autumn season and are welcome to embrace every aspect of it, from the changing colors, the remembrance of times once gone, and the holidays where we give thanks and become something else. The show immerses us in every aspect of autumn. Yet this is only Over the Garden Wall's invitation to what autumn is. Even if this is what personally attracted me to the show and what made me appreciate what autumn means on its surface, it is not to the extent that Over the Garden Wall connects to autumn. Of course, these aspects are what got me into the show, but they are not what will keep me here for years to come. With regards to this, next we will examine how the show encapsulates autumn in a much deeper way and see why I will cherish it and the autumn season for the rest of my life. Something that encapsulates the meaning of autumn perfectly is its opening song at the beginning, called Into the Unknown. Looking back, its lyrics start out really mournful and slowly, establishing the mysterious setting. Then it goes into what we remember and what we hold on to in this time of uncertainty. Then it assesses the reality of what fall is when they question, using this question to assess fall as an uncertain time. The mournful section of the song then ends with a wish for there to be more stability in the future when it says, Then the more lighter and exciting section of the song kicks in, where they reflect on the present and where they are now in the center of the beautiful season of fall. As the lyrics say, lastly, the ending line discusses that the autumn season, being uncertain in nature, will soon be a lie when the uncertainty is embraced and one goes forward, moving past the uncertainty, now knowing what was once unknown. The reason that this is the loveliest lie of all is because once the unknown is no longer that scary fabrication we tell ourselves, it teaches us to embrace what is feared and go forward with that in mind. Even if the song is merely a setup to the storyline that is about to be told, stating that all is lost in this world will slowly be revealed over this journey, I believe there is a double meaning to the song as it also assesses the essence of the autumn season, much like how the show does. Within the show, even if the journey of the characters are simple, they encapsulate autumn's meaning entirely. To begin with a minor example, when Wirt and Greg meet all the individual one-off characters in this world, they initially see them as unknown strangers. Although, as their stories continue, the brothers learn about these characters and embrace what was once unknown. Instances like when they meet the Pumpkin Man in the second episode who came off as violent but was actually a passive leader, or the Woodsman in the first episode who they saw as psychotic but actually had a pure heart, highlight that the brothers had to overcome what they saw as unknown. Another example is Beatrice, a girl cursed to be a bird, who the brothers were deceived by, but over the story, they recognize her as a flawed but ultimately caring person that would stop at nothing to help her family. Even these one-off characters themselves have unknowns they have to face and grow to accept. An example of this is the wealthy old man in episode 5, who faced what was thought to be a ghost, but turned out to be a woman. In this misconception, the old man overcame his fears and accepted the truth that this wasn't a mysterious ghost, but a new friend. Each of the characters in this show, for as short of a time as we have with them, do change from beginning to end and highlight the virtue of embracing change and overcoming uncertainty that is embedded in the fabric of the autumn season. Outside of this, focusing a bit more on the reoccurring characters, I'd like to discuss the primary antagonist, the Beast. This character is masked in shade throughout his appearances and is both reflective of Autumn's connection to the unknown, as well as an antithesis to what Autumn is symbolically. The Beast's whole intention is to lure his victims into a state of despair, that there is no hope and no escape in times of uncertainty. When this creature finally does capture his prey, he deceives them into believing their loved ones are trapped in a lantern, and they must keep this lantern lit, or said loved ones will die. In keeping the victim's loved ones in a lantern, he keeps his victims in an eternal lack of direction, where they're forced to wander the woods indefinitely. The Beast is the antithesis to Fall's spirit, because even if Fall is a season of uncertainty, it is also one that encourages you to face the uncertainty head on and ultimately come to an understanding of what it is. The Beast is an entity dedicated to undermining this acceptance by any means necessary, and wants to control the feeling of uncertainty, keeping you from ever reaching a resolution with the unknowns in your life. The woods the main characters are in also applies to the symbolic meaning of autumn. This area the brothers find themselves lost in is one that remains full of uncertainty, yet necessitates a change in the person so that they can escape from this uncertain world in the hopes that they can find themselves. With the unknown woods seemingly never ending, the brothers and all who reside within are uncertain that they will ever get out, much like Fall leaves us uncertain of what to do moving forward. Despite the adversities, however, the brothers overcome the unknown, much like how we overcome what is unknown in our lives. The triumph the brothers show highlight that even if one is in an atmosphere without clarity, they can still find their way out by understanding themselves, their surroundings, and ultimately making a change. On the topic of Wirt and Greg and the essence of autumn, the journeys of the brothers in this world and their inner struggles not only highlight fall's essence, but are the most important way the show highlights what autumn represents. Within the show, the boys are both faced with uncertainty. When it comes to Wirt, he is anxious and never sure if people will accept him for who he is, and is reluctant to embrace change. Yet through the struggles of the unknown, Wirt takes the help he gives to others for himself, to be more confident and not to worry so much, becoming more sure of himself in the process. As for Greg, he mainly stays the same. However, from the unknown, he learns to be selfless and give back to those he takes from. Both these characters go through their own hardships to trigger a transition in their life from one phase to another. Additionally, with respect to the symbolic essence of autumn, despite the uncertainty of the world, they came to change and embrace what they once feared, managing to finally take charge and go over the garden wall. When it comes to the way in which Over the Garden Wall tells its story, from the journeys of change and embracing the unknown, to its world and antagonists embodying aspects of what fall represents, to the overarching narrative of two brothers lost, afraid, and changing for the better, not only is the show adored for the superficial aspects of autumn, like its colors and mise-en-scène, but will remain with viewers because of the journey of the characters, what the unknown represents, and the deeper meaning the show bears. Knowing how to move forward in times of uncertainty is integral to the fall season and the characters of the show, and that is why this show will always remain in my and many others' hearts, for its emphasis on accepting the unknown, changing for the better, and its encapsulation of the autumn spirit.
And so the story is complete, and everyone is satisfied with the ending, and so on and so forth, and yet...
Overall, the show, Over the Garden Wall, for its deep connection to autumn in both its aesthetic and deeper meaning, will always remind me why this season is so special. Even if the leaves begin to wither away and the long winter beckons ever closer, I will continue to dance in the swirl of golden memories as I embrace the unknown, the loveliest lie of all.
Lies. Oh.